deep they go. I personally think that there's
Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michelle. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. We have a lovely cool day outside. Today it's in the 50s. The sun is shining. I had a great morning run at the reservoir, as I usually do. I would say 5 out of 7 days I'm running at the reservoir now. And I am the author of my newly published book, Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. It is based on the principles of A Course in Miracles, which I have been studying now for 33 years. And A Course in Miracles is truly my path to peace, love, joy, and happiness. And when I embody the principles of A Course in Miracles, I feel good. When I do not adhere to those principles, I don't feel so good. My introduction starts out, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. And I truly believe and do my best to live by the principles I just recited, because I believe that God wants us to feel his peace and his joy as often as possible, because when we can really embody the truth of who we are, we can set ourselves up to be the miracle workers we were born to be. God can use us to channel his love to our brother, to the universe. I mean, this is what sets the stage for a miracle. You know, when we can really step into our joy, that's when we can fuse with God, and he can use us to channel his love. And that is what allows me to be happy as well. You know the phrase, I will to will thy will. So when I can truly step into my joy, then God can move through me. I can become a miracle worker. I can extend his love to my brother, and that's going to bring God peace, love, joy, and happiness. And it's also going to bring me peace, love, joy, and happiness. And it's also going to bring my brother peace, love, joy, and happiness. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I have a friend of mine, she always says it's all good and it's all coming together. And it really is all good and it's all coming together. I took some time prior to my time here on Gather for A Course in Miracles to think about what I was going to talk about today, you know, and what came to me. I have that poem by Marianne Williamson that I used to recite a lot. I haven't recited it for a while, but I'm thinking of the words right now. You know, she has the Our Deepest Fear poem. She starts out, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? In fact, who are you not to be. Your playing small doesn't serve the universe. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people don't feel bad around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. And as we allow our own light to shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And what that poem, I know I didn't recite it word for word, but I got the main gist of what Marianne Williamson wrote in her book, A Return to Love, years ago. I think that's where I originally found that poem. But what she is writing is that when we step in to our true power, when we step into that miraculous mindset that we're all capable of stepping into, that's the truth of who and what we are, we can truly give to the world in the way that we were born to give. And when we really step into the truth of who and what we are, we unconsciously allow other people to do the same. So it's what I guess I've been thinking a lot about that recently, about living my best life, about just living my best life, what is my passion? What is my purpose? Why am I here? I believe I am here to teach and learn A Course in Miracles, because that is the thought system that I find the most empowering. What is A Course in Miracles really? I just had a podcast today, which was super exciting, and it was with a gentleman from India. It's so amazing that you can have these calls. It's as easy to talk to my next door neighbor on the computer as it is to talk to somebody on the other side of the world. So today my podcast was with a lovely gentleman from India. His name was Avik. His last name I might not be able to pronounce properly, Chakraborty, I believe, but he was a lovely man. He was younger than me, really just passionate and well-spoken. And the name of his podcast is Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And the first thing I asked him at the beginning of the podcast is, have you heard of or studied A Course in Miracles? And he had not. But after he, asked me to be a guest on his show, he did some Google research about A Course in Miracles, and he found out a little bit about it. So he asked me questions about what it is. And I loved his questions, and it really made me think, what A Course in Miracles is. It's a path to peace, love, joy, and happiness. It's kind of like this navigational system. It's a shortcut to heaven, as opposed to going through all the trials and tribulations of this earthly classroom. Whether you're a Course in Miracles student or not, you still have trials and tribulations, but A Course in Miracles gives you a quick way through the trials and tribulations. It's like a fast pass to heaven. So it was really nice talking about it, with someone who didn't know it as well as I did, and when I talk about it too, I say that the truth of who we are is love. The introduction of A Course in Miracles says that we can't, Jesus Christ, speaking in A Course in Miracles, he can't teach us who we are, because the essence of who we are is love. You know, the only thing A Course in Miracles can do is it can point out the blocks to love. So when the blocks to love come up, we can identify them and release them and get back to our natural state, which is one of peace, love, joy, and happiness. So, and being that I'm not enlightened yet, I do have a tendency to swing like a pendulum throughout the day. You know, I feel connected to God and then I lose it. I've reconnected to God and then I lose it. I replug myself into my God socket and then I lose it, you know. And sometimes during the day, I'm more plugged into my God socket. Sometimes I'm not. And this morning, I had a really interesting experience of being extremely connected. And then minutes later, being extremely disconnected. You know, I woke up with my usual Course in Miracles discipline, daily workbook lesson. It really helps my mind get positive when I listen to A Course in Miracles on YouTube is usually where I listen to it first thing in the morning. So today's lesson is, if you're going one by one, starting with January 1st, today is the 282nd day of the year. So today's lesson is, I will not be afraid of love today, which is a really interesting lesson, because I mean, just to think about that line, you know, I'm not afraid of love. I have no fear of love. You know, we it's hard to admit that we're afraid of love, but the truth is we are afraid of love, just like that Marianne Williamson poem that I recited. You know, we are more afraid of our light than we are of our darkness. I will not be afraid of love today, you know. So it's just such an amazing lesson. They all are. So I listened to the lesson on YouTube, Carol Howe, and then Tina Louise Spalding. I mean, there's some great Course in Miracles teachers that recite the lessons every day if you tune into YouTube. And then I went into my half-hour meditation that was like really powerful. You know, I was like, I focused, I felt connected, I felt plugged into my God socket, I felt safe, I felt peaceful, I felt light. And then I came out of my meditation and I looked at the clock and I realized I was running a little late to meet my friend at the reservoirs for my morning run. So I start kind of scurrying around the house, trying to get my stuff together, you know, put on my shorts and my shirt and my running sneakers and get my jacket and, you know, get my breakfast. And I could not find my fanny pack, and I like to know where things are. So I felt a little harried, a little stressed, a little off. And I think this happens to everyone, you know. I mean, I know I go from one extreme of being completely centered and focused to this other extreme of scurrying around, you know, like a chicken with her head cut off. So I was feeling discombobulated minutes after I got out of my meditation, which is not good. And then my husband was listening to his Course in Miracles lesson on YouTube, but on the TV set. You know, he's like me. I'm an old Course in Miracles student. He's a newer Course in Miracles student. He watches his Course in Miracles lesson on YouTube on the television screen, and he has this wonderful woman that he always listens to. I believe her name is Brittany, and she's amazing. She's amazing. So he's listening to this beautiful Course in Miracles lesson on the TV on YouTube, and she's reciting something very beautiful, like, I am love, God is love, and so am I. I can't remember her exact words, but I know it was very peaceful and uplifting. And I'm like running around and I'm all stressed out. So my energy was one of stress, fear, right? Her energy was one of love, peace. But when someone is in, you know, stress, the energy of love does not draw them in. They're actually repelled by the energy of love. Like when I'm stressed, I am not attracted to love. I'm just not. It's A Course in Miracles says, we have the Holy Spirit on one shoulder, the ego on the other, and the two clash. So when I'm in the midst of fear, love is not attractive to me. So it was kind of funny when I think about it. So I'm listening. So I'm all stressed. I cannot find my fanny pack, and Brittany is talking about how God is love and so is she, and all is well in her world. Well, all was not well in my world. So I kind of snapped at the television set. I turned off the television set and then proceeded to run around looking for my fanny pack, which I could never find. And then I think a couple minutes later, my husband snapped at me because he was upset that I turned his Course in Miracles lesson off. But when I think about it now, it's an interesting lesson because and it's not about judging myself. It's like, did I screw up my morning a little? Yeah, I guess I did. But it is what it is. We all make mistakes. When I'm in the midst of a fearful state of mind, it's like I have forgotten who I am. I'm all caught up in the stress. And if there's this loving energy, I am not drawn to it. I'm actually repelled by it, and what I did to get back to my center is I just drove. I started focusing on love again. I started calming down. I started breathing. I think we need to forgive ourselves for stressing out, and then by the time I finished my run, I felt much more centered. But it's a really, I don't know, it's just so interesting in how we can be like plugged into our God socket, feeling really peaceful, feeling really joyful, feeling really connected. And then something goes wrong. I look at the time, I realize I'm running late. I can't find my fanny pack. And then I lose my connection. So it's kind of this constant daily discipline that is going to create the most joyful path for us. But it's a minute by minute choice. It's do I want to align myself with the truth of who I am? Do I want to be a conduit for miracles? Do I want to align myself with love? Do I want to connect to source energy? Do I want to live in a joyful way? Or do I want to block God's love? Because God is always extending his love to us. God is a constant state. So in order to just lead the most empowered life possible, we need to slow down, and we need to allow him to come into our hearts and our souls and our being and our way of living. It's a constant choice. And when I choose love, I feel good. And when I don't feel so good. I had this other interesting challenge that happened to me. I spoke a little bit about it on Friday, I believe, that I woke up one morning and I received a text message from a friend of mine I had gone to bed the night before praying to connect with my innocence, because A Course in Miracles tells us that the way to align ourselves with God consciousness is to connect with our innocence as often as possible. Guilt keeps us from God. Innocence allows us to connect to God, to connect to source energy, to connect to our creator. So I went to bed on Monday night just praying to embody my innocence. I woke up on Tuesday morning with a text message from a friend who was projecting some guilt onto me, finding fault with a couple of things that I had done in our friendship. And I read over the text message, that was guilt-ridden. A few things that I did were not right according to her way of thinking. And I had to, and I was triggered. I was hurt. I was triggered. And I knew I had to get to the place of forgiveness. I mean, I knew that being hurt, being triggered was keeping me away from the truth of who I was. I knew I needed to forgive me and forgive her. And, but I couldn't do it instantaneously. Before I got to the place of forgiveness, I had to allow myself to feel the pain that was coming up for me. And I do believe whenever we're triggered, it's because something in us has not been healed. Whenever we're triggered by we wouldn't be triggered. I wouldn't be triggered by her words or hurt by her words if I didn't have any guilt in me. But because I'm not enlightened yet, because I still have guilt in me, I was triggered by her words. I mean, she found a few flaws in a couple things that I did. Now, again, if I was at peace with who I was, I wouldn't have taken it personally. But because I still have guilt in me, I was triggered. So what I chose to do is I chose to work through my stuff before I communicated with her, because I didn't want to communicate from a place of fear. I wanted to communicate from a place of compassion. I didn't want to react from a place of fear. I wanted to respond from a place of love. I wanted to allow myself to heal before I confronted the issue, which was a pretty good choice. I came up with the 4P process. When we are triggered by the universe, instead of reacting from a place of fear, the best thing we can do is respond from a place of compassion. So the 4P process entails, first, when we're triggered, pause. Just don't react, because most of the time, if we react too soon, we're going to come from a place of fear. So the first P is pause. The second P is own the pain. So if we're triggered, it's because there's something in our unconscious mind that has not yet been healed. So although A Course in Miracles is a non-dualistic thought system, if it's negative, it's an illusion, but the pain that we have tucked in our unconscious mind needs to come up so healing can occur. So the second P is own the pain. Just own the pain. Just be with the pain. Just sit quietly with the pain so it can work its way through you. And then the third P is process. process that pain in whatever way you need to. And the fourth P is pray and give it over to a higher power. Give it over to God, give it over to the Holy Spirit, give it over to the part of yourself that is based on unconditional love, because there's a part of ourself that knows how to process the pain that we experience here in this earthly classroom in a healthy way, in a way that will bring us back to our original state of innocence, our original state of peace, love, joy, and happiness. So the 4 Ps: pause, own the pain, process, and pray. And sometimes when we're going through triggers, we don't necessarily go in that order. Boom, 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 boom. Sometimes it's all pause is always a good thing to do. Pause, I will say it's always a good thing to do. And then to own the pain, to process the pain, then we might go back to really feeling the pain, and then we process the pain, then we pray, and we might do a couple of circles in there before we can release the pain and get to the other side of the pain. And the other side of the pain is always forgiveness. Always, because forgiveness is our way out of hell. Forgiveness is our way back to heaven. Forgiveness is what we need to learn in this earthly classroom to get back to source energy, to get back to our true self. So I did what I could from when I got the text to today, in terms of, because this was a very close friend, a very close friend who's very important to me, and I love her very much, but I did what I could to really forgive her and forgive me, because all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. When I forgive her, I'm forgiving me. And forgiveness is what brings us back to heaven. So I went through the process of doing my best to forgive her. And it's so interesting how it worked, because on one hand, as I was giving the hurt and the pain to God, I could feel myself getting more peaceful. But then a lot of the times the ego would kick in, and the expression, would you rather be right or happy? Well, the ego wants to be right. The ego wants to be right, and he wants the other person to be wrong. And every time I was starting to forgive and starting to go back to source energy and the awareness of who I am and unconditional love, the ego would kick in, and the ego would say, well, I'm just never going to call her again. Well, I'm just going to cut her out of my life. Well, who is she to attack me like that? I didn't do anything wrong. So during this forgiveness process that I was going towards, the ego was always kind of trying to come in and sabotage my healing. So, but I just kind of, stayed constant in my attempt to forgive. And I think I was at a pretty good place in my forgiveness. Today, I was pretty good, not perfect, but pretty good. I had pretty much forgiven her and forgiven me for what she accused me of doing in the text message. And I called her before my talk today, and she picked up the phone, and we spoke about it. And we basically got it resolved. And I'm not saying that she was right. I'm not saying that I was right. But I think what heals any situation is just to realize if it was negative, it never happened except in the world of illusion. I mean, forgiveness is always the way. Whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. But forgiveness is always the way to true peace, love, joy, and happiness. I got an email this week from John Mundy, who is amazing, amazing, amazing. And he has the magazine, the Miracles magazine. And I love that magazine. It's really, really good. I have a few over here on my desk, and he puts out these emails. And his email that I got on Sunday was about forgiveness. And it's very poignant, you know. It starts out, the subject line says there is no future in the past. And then he has a few quotes from A Course in Miracles in his email. The first quote is, "And when the memory of God has come to you in the holy place of forgiveness, you will remember nothing else." And then the second quote he has here from A Course in Miracles, "The ego's plan is to have you see error clearly first, then overlook it. Yet how can you overlook what you have made real? By seeing it clearly, you have made it real and cannot overlook it." So, and then he has another quote in here. I don't know if this is from the text of A Course in Miracles or not, but it's something that I've said quite often. God does not forgive anyone for anything because God never condemns anyone for anything. So we can't really, God does not need to forgive us. God has never condemned us. But what I need to do is I need to forgive myself and forgive my brother. I need to see that quote, sin or errors or mistakes has no power over me. So this mistake that my friend made by projecting her guilt onto me, or this mistake that I made by taking the projection personally, well, it's not real, you know? All we need to do is I think, identify the pain point. You know, what is it within me that was triggered by what she wrote in the text? What is it within me that has not yet been healed? I think it's about me identifying the pain point, acknowledging the pain point, you know, and then just releasing it and thanking her for teaching me, you know, thank her for triggering me, thank her for showing me something within myself that has not yet been healed. Our triggers are our teachers. You know, she is teaching me that there's still something in me that needs to be brought to the light so it can be released. So she is teaching me that there's something within myself that I have not yet fully forgiven. And it was a great learning lesson because it was part of the process of my darkness coming to the light. Everything in life is a lesson or a blessing. The blessings are fun, and the lessons are actually bringing us closer to heaven. And the lessons always have to do about forgiveness. The two easiest ways to get to heaven are forgiveness and gratitude. Forgiveness and gratitude, and to really embrace those qualities it's such an empowering way to live. So it is now 3:33, and I enjoy my time here. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And my book, Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity, is available on Amazon for only $12.96. My website is surrendertojoy.net to learn more about me. And as A Course in Miracles says in the introduction, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And what that means is the only thing that's real is the love. Thank God for that. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Brothers
Thank you, Susan Michelle.
find a way of living.